It's time for Fight News Now Extra. I'm John Pollock with all of the news coming out of this past weekend as the UFC crowned their first strawweight champion. A heavyweight war went down in Phoenix. Plus, World Series of Fighting presented their final card of the year, and we'll chat about all of it with John Ramdine on today's chat. The main event of the UFC's Fox card on Saturday night saw former champion Junior Dos Santos take a unanimous decision over Stipe Miocic after 5 hard-fought rounds, many of which were extremely close rounds. Both men's faces were a mess by the end of the 25 minutes and scores were all over the place for those watching, but the three that counted had it 49-46, 49-46, and 48-47 for Dos Santos. Rafael Dos Anjos put together the best performance of his career, breaking down Nate Diaz in a one-sided, unanimous decision that featured leg kicks to the right leg of Diaz, which were debilitating for the Stockton native. Diaz had a series of miscues all week, from missing the public workout, missing weight by 4 pounds, blowing off interviews, and culminating in a lackluster performance against Dos Anjos, who Dana White stated would be next to fight Anthony Pettis for the lightweight title. On Friday night, the UFC crowned their first strawweight champion in Carla Esparza, who used her wrestling and perfect timing of Rose Namajunas' striking, eventually taking her opponent down and submitting her with a rear-naked choke in the third round. Esparza was the Invicta FC strawweight champion when the UFC brought in the 16 strawweights for the recent season of Tough, and Esparza is expected to fight Joanna Jędrzejczyk in her next fight. And the World Series of Fighting had a card on Saturday night in Sacramento, California, headlined by Rousimar Palhares needing only 90 seconds to submit John Fitch with a knee bar and retain his welterweight title. Fitch's striking looked good in the opening minute, but Palhares was lightning quick when they went to the mat, grabbing the leg before Fitch was forced to tap. Here we are with John Ramdine coming off of the UFC on Fox card. I scored at 48-47 for Junior Dos Santos. How did you have it?
I think that makes the most sense. I didn't actually score it round for round. I was just looking at it, and I was, surprised by Joe Rogan's commentary because it was kind of one-sided. If you look at that fight and you're a casual fan and you might not know what you're watching, it really led you to believe that Miocic was in full control of this fight until the end, because I'm watching, it's like, am I just out to lunch here? Is Junior Dos Santos not winning this fight? And then at the end when they announced the scores, it's like, oh, okay, he was winning this fight. But it was closer to your scoring. I think Junior Dos Santos.
I thought 1 and 5 were very close.
They were very, very
rounds.
close, right? But I think, we're not in there to feel which punches are the most effective punches. It's Junior Dos Santos and Stipe Miocic. But the fight was very, very close. And look, what do you take out of this fight? You take that Stipe Miocic is very, very talented, and Junior Dos Santos has a lot of miles, and Cain Velasquez is clearly the #1 guy at the heavyweight division. And
that was the message to me.
Yeah.
That was louder than anything, is that, Fabricio Verdum is the next in line, and maybe he will present some kind of challenge to Cain Velasquez, but outside of that, Cain Velasquez is just on another planet in this heavyweight division, and I, for the love of Junior Dos Santos, don't want to see this man ever fight Cain Velasquez, because it feels like this man, he is not the same from those last 2 wars with the guy.
Yeah, but it does seem like he had a little bit more mass. He seemed a little slower than he has been in the past, but I think it comes down to Cain Velasquez. Can Cain Velasquez be healthy? Can he remain, can he get himself rehabilitated and compete at that high level once again? We've seen him, come back before, but I think Cain Velasquez, when it comes to like a guy like Fabricio Verdum that you mentioned, he really has to be on his A game, because look what happened when he faced Junior Dos Santos that first time. If he is injured, if he's not 100% healthy, and I know what a lot of fighters say, no, nobody's 100% healthy, but he's got to be as healthy as he possibly can be, because Fabricio Verdum seems to be on a different level right now.
So what is next for Junior Dos Santos? It's not a title fight. We have Alistair Overeem, who did win on the weekend.
Sign me up.
Travis Brown recently won. Are those your 2 candidates right now for Junior Dos Santos? Or are you in a position right now where you have to be careful with him, because Miocic, we were talking potential title fight if he wins. So is this going to be a contender killer at heavyweight?
Well, again, it depends on what you're looking at. Right now, Cain Velasquez is still in the sidelines. We're hoping that he's going to come back sometime in early 2015, but there's no guarantees. And as you see, fighters, they need to pay the bills, so they need to get inside of the cage. So I think Junior Dos Santos, he has to adopt that mentality that Rashad Evans has, that, we're professional mixed martial arts prize fighters. The goal is to sign on the dotted line. The UFC gives me an opponent. I go out there, try to get a victory, and get a performance bonus in the meantime.
Rafael dos Anjos, I think the best performance of his career. Dana White very strongly hinting he'll be next in line for a lightweight title shot. I'll believe it when we see the announcement made. Right. But this was a tremendous performance. I thought rounds 1 and 2 were 10-8 rounds. I thought he just absolutely obliterated Nate Diaz with those leg kicks. Dominant performance from Dos Anjos. And for Nate Diaz, this was just a terrible week for this guy.
Yeah, but apparently there's some sort of injury he sustained leading into the fight. So, it'd be interesting to know what that injury was. But Dos Anjos looking very, very good. An awesome strategy. It's hard for me to give 10-8 rounds because when I look at a 10-8 round, it's like you have to be very, very close to finishing a fight. Nathan Diaz, in a million years, even if his leg was smashed to smithereens, he couldn't stand up, he would never be out of that fight. He'd still be trying to look for some sort of submission off of his back. But what a great performance by the Brazilian. And this is the matchup you have to make, especially with Nurmagomedov sitting on the sidelines right now. You have to make Dos Anjos and Anthony Pettis. But really, what does that mean? It's Anthony Pettis. This guy looks sensational. And Rafael Dos Anjos has to have an outstanding game plan. But look at training alongside Fabrizio Verdum, who's going to be getting ready to face Cain Velasquez. Rafael Cordero seems to be one of the best guys in mixed martial arts right now as a coach.
And touching on the 2 other heavyweight bouts from the main card, Alistair Overeem and Matt Mitrione.
Yeah.
I was very impressed with Matt Mitrione. Where this guy has come from the Ultimate Fighter to today, the guy is 36 years of age. I wish he was 26. But maybe that's a fight you make coming out of this. I mean, former training partners at the Black Zillions, and in terms of top heavyweights, they're few and far between, and I think Mitrione's having this bit of a resurgence right now with a 3-fight winning streak. He's at the peak of his career right now.
Yeah, I just think what's good about it is he doesn't have those fight miles. He hasn't gone through all the training camps that a lot of these other fighters have gone through. So, maybe that'll serve him very, very well. I think for Matt Mitrione, just give him interesting fights. He was supposed to fight Stefan Struve. That fight fell apart. Does he want to take a fight against a guy who's coming off of a loss, or does he want to take a fight with Alistair Overeem? I think he's down to take whatever fight.
Lots of stuff coming out of this weekend. We also had a new strawweight champion, a new World Series of Fighting featherweight champion. We'll chat about that more this week. But right now we have more of Fight News Now Extra.